Let's go right into it. So, what if, for marketing and automation, you didn't have to write connectors? What if you didn't have to do it all yourself, and you could benefit from others' work? What if you could really improve users' privacy? We're introducing the Context Server initiative. So, let's talk about the expectations that people have when interacting with computer systems in a personalized way. The user expects businesses to recognize them across all systems and channels. So this is really a very simple expectation that users have. The problem is that when we look at the actual systems, this is not actually what's going on. What's going on is that the user is interacting with a lot of different computer systems, and every single one of these has a little bit of the information about this person. And some systems are more or less good at, interchanging this information and making sure that the user experience is as good as possible, but most are not. So what we're proposing here is to look at building a standard that will help this issue. And to do so, we've come up with the notion of the context server. The context server is, let's say, more a technology than an actual implementation. And the idea is to be able to provide a standard and an open source implementation. But of course, the standard could be built on top of any existing platform to help this problem. So this way, the user, all the user information can be shared through the context server standard, and every system can integrate with it. The user also has some added benefits coming from this type of standard. So let's look at two examples which we hope will interest people that are joining us today. So the first one, which is, at least from our experience in communicating around this work, is privacy. After an initial round of a lot of people trying to integrate a lot of data coming from different interactions that the user is doing, there's been sort of a backlash to this where people are really worried about what's going on with their personal data. So basically, it becomes possible with this standard to make it easy for users to know if something, for example, implements this specification. It also makes it possible to use the spec to ask the server all the information that was collected, and it maybe act upon it. So this is, again, just an idea, an example of what we could do with this work. It's not something that's set in stone. And finally, the user could have more control over the data usage and also possibly opt in a lot easier in a less on and off way, because if we're looking at standards such as do not track basically says we're turning everything off, and here it would become possible to say no, we just want to turn some things off, not everything. So for example, let's look at privacy use cases. So a user wants to easily access all the information collected on him by all the websites he visits. A user wants to only once have to say that he's not interested in having his location tracked, whatever site he's accessing. And when a user opts out of a newsletter for a topic he doesn't like, he would like this to transfer to new systems he interacts with and have control over that. Now let's look at another example which we think might be interesting, is having a standard to make it much easier when we're dealing with all this network of systems to connect them more easily. So having a standard will make it a lot easier for software vendors to have a common language to exchange user profile information. Also, related to the work that we've been proposing, events would become a lot easier to make interoperable. By events here, we're talking about really singular user interactions. Of course, another thing that becomes incredibly useful is the possibility to share segments, so marketing segments across different software. So meaning that marketing segments are not necessarily only available for a CMS or a CRM system. They can really become accessible throughout. And although this could be possible with some existing solutions, it would make it a lot easier to have this through many systems using a standard. And finally, of course, marketing automation vendors can access more profile information or access context or events than before, because hopefully if this gets adopted widely, which is what we're trying to do, then a lot of things should open up. I also wanted to quickly talk about the benefits of joining. Right now, although we've produced some material, you know, nothing, I mean, this is just starting, so everything can be changed. So the thing is that by joining, you make sure the standard will be easier to integrate with your existing systems, because we could say, okay, this doesn't really work in general. Of course, you have a first mover advantage, because basically this, at least this standard, we couldn't identify anything else in this space. There are things related in this space, but there's nothing really in this space yet. And of course, this is just a little bit disruptive because a lot of people are trying to build silos until now. But the idea here is to really benefit from the exchange, which makes it also a competitive advantage of a different sort. And finally, the idea is also to provide something that will help corporations and, of course, end user experiences. I just put a quick slide. If you want to read more, of course, we'll go into questions as soon as possible. But here is a slide about the TC first. Then there's a very extensive CMS Wire article that you can also read. The current proposal, which is, as I said, just a proposal. And finally, if you're interested, there's also an open source prototype that was started that is under an Apache license, and that's available on GitHub. Okay, so that is it for the slides.
Serge, I'd like to add a small thing so everyone knows. The context server, like Serge said, is meant to be possible to implement on existing, let's say, marketing automation tool. But it's not like only possible to use segments across different systems. You could also sort of create them from different systems. So it's really bi-directional. And events occurring in the context server will propagate to all the desired systems you integrate. So it's really about aggregating and sharing, not just data, but also metadata like segments.
Absolutely, and it's also the same can be said about user profiles, or there's also stuff that looks more like administration types of accesses. We, for example, talked about use cases with newsletter applications that want to access data to produce the lists of users and so forth.